Welcome back, everybody, of the Dr. Bob Lee for 107.5. You're watching Open. Thank you for joining us. Our next guest is a clinical psychologist and author of the book, The Unexpected Gift of Trauma. We're going to highlight the steps people can take to recover and grow from trauma. So please welcome to the show. She's right here, Dr. Edith Shiro. Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much, Bob, for having me. I'm really, really happy to be here with you.
Yeah. So you've been in the business of monitoring people, basically. You're a psychologist. How did it all start?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say monitoring, I would say facilitating. And the way and the way that I actually call what I do is more holding space for transformation. So I'm a space holder for transformation. Yes, and I've been doing this for, more than 25 years. I've been in private practice. I've been teaching, giving conferences, and really working not only with individuals, but also with families, with couples, and with groups and communities, which is something that I really, really love.
And after spending some time facilitating, you said, you know what, let me put the pen to the paper and come up with a book. So
Yeah. It wasn't exactly like that. This is something that I've been brewing for 25 years.
Yeah.
And it started with honestly, I've been in the line of doing research on trauma and what happens with trauma, but, more interesting, not only from a personal perspective, but also professional, is what happens after trauma, because there's so many books and so many things about trauma, and we all know about, the symptoms of trauma and how people get affected and PTSD and all that. But what happens after? And that was my question, because I found that there were like three kinds of people, three groups that would happen. I would see with my own family and also with my patients, some people would stay in that stuck place of trauma that could not get out, that PTSD, that repetition of patterns. That would take a long time, and some of them would not recover. Then I would see another group of people that would say, you know what, I have the tools, I'm resilient, I can come back, I can bounce back, I can heal. And, some people would come out of it and they would do well. But then I saw a third group, and that's the group that really, really caught my attention more, which was the group of people that took the opportunity of what happened to them, like the really hard things, difficult, painful, adversity, challenging situations that happened to them, and they use it as a springboard to jump to the next level. It was like a springboard of transformation. It was like a leap into the next level of evolution for them. And that was like really beautiful to see. And that was really interesting. And I was like asking myself all the time, how can we duplicate this? How can we replicate this? How we can make this happen for everybody? And what's the difference between the people that stay stuck in the trauma and the people that are actually able to use this opportunity and transform? Like what makes the difference? What makes it happen for some and not for others? And what's the process? So I came up with this whole research and framework and like 5 steps. I put it like easy to read, like and interesting and understandable for everybody, because the purpose is for all of us to be able to get there.
Yeah. And this book can help people to unstick themselves, basically.
Yes, not only to unstick themselves, but to understand, first of all, what they have. Do I have, what's my trauma? What is it about? What's going on? And then what are the 5 steps to actually get to this other place, knowing that there's an opportunity, knowing that there are possibilities, because most people see trauma as a life sentence. They say, okay, something bad happened to me. It's been horrible. Like that's an example of like the school shooting that I work with. This is an example of people in Bhutan that I went to, like people that go through difficult situations, and then you don't have to stay there. I mean, I think you had a guest, the last guest you had, this woman, Sherry, lovely, amazing example of how she took whatever was happening to her and she put it to work for her in like a transformation, in a way that, you start developing things that you don't even know you had. You start understanding things about yourself that you didn't know you even had, like that strength and that power and that way of seeing life from a completely different perspective. And we can have that collectively also. Bob, it's, for example, the living the pandemic that we're in, and the last 3 years of what's been happening to us. It's not only individual trauma, but collective trauma. What happens with collective trauma? How do we understand what's happening and use this to say, okay, let's rearrange our priorities. Let's redefine who we are. Let's start writing a new narrative of our lives, of what's happening to us, of who we are, what's important, how do we relate to each other, have more meaningful relationships. Sometimes I say from the pain comes the purpose, right?
Yes.
From the breakdown, we can go into breakthroughs. From like the in the wound is where the medicine is. So that's kind of like the mindset that I'm offering.
And you mentioned, doctor, coming out of the pandemic, some people still don't realize that they came through some sort of trauma, and they may be stuck and don't know why they're stuck, or the reason, that the thing that's sticking them or helping them stay stuck. How do you find that person and say, hey, you do have, what are the symptoms that will help people? First you got to recognize the system, the problem, solution. So you got the problem. What are some of the symptoms that will help you climb out of a situation like that?
That's such a great question, because people ask me that a lot. And one of the things that happens is that until the pain of being where we are is greater than the pain of like risking something, that's, we don't move. When we are in this state of like comfort, and yes, you're uncomfortable, yes, things are difficult, yes, you're suffering, but it's not bad enough, we tend to stay in that repetitive stuck place, that paralyzed place. And it's only when there's like an unbearable situation that you say, I can't take this anymore, that we enter into the first stage, the first step of this transition, which is radical acceptance. And like you were saying, Bob, it's like, how do we radically accept that this is what's happening to me? It's like having like a pause in your life and saying, I can see around me, I can see what I'm doing, and I'm stuck, or I'm not doing well, or yes, I am an addict, yes, I am an alcoholic, or yes, I am depressed, or yes, I am paralyzed after the pandemic. And only when you begin to accept that completely, honestly, and radically, then you can begin to talk about it. You can begin to express it. You can begin to look for help, or to extend yourself into another person and say, this is what's happening to me. And that's when you enter that process of then looking for an awakening, and then like a new narrative, and then an integration of what's happening to you, and then getting to this wisdom and growth stage that lead us to post-traumatic growth.
People are going to need you, because we're continually being traumatized, and you're just living in this era. With the overabundance of social media, it's like flooding our world. Some of the things that we come out of, people are still, I didn't realize myself what we were going through. I lived next to the Elmhurst Hospital, and you heard the ambulance every night, all throughout the day, and then the helicopters flying by, and then you saw the news reports of people being shoved into a refrigerated truck, and we got a call to help somebody that was stuck deep into the operating room, the ER, and they were crying that nobody came to check them out. So all this stuff was going on. And then you didn't realize that you were wrapped up in this until later on. You said, wow, look what we came through. And is that the first step that you're talking about, the practical acceptance?
Yes,
What's the other step to follow?
Yes, that first step is that radical acceptance of like having that full stop and saying, wow, look what's happening to me. Like what's going on around? How am I even understanding this? But really having that moment of awareness is extremely important, because that's when you can see, okay, those sirens of the ambulance, or that like constant like fear or anxiety of that it's doing something to me. When you overpass that and you don't acknowledge it, and you like shove it under the rug, or pretend it's not there, or avoid it, those are all trauma responses or survival responses, but that are not being processed, and then they will manifest later on. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
I don't know if it's happening to some of us. It's like when you hear the sirens again, or where you pass by a hospital, or when you get some triggers, then you're like, you start feeling all of that all over again. And until we accept it, we recognize it, we validate it, and we process it, that's not going to get through to us so we can get to the next level. The next step is the step that I call safety and protection, in which you actually talk like you and I are talking about it now, in a safe place, and say, and you say, Edith, I've been feeling like this. And I actually remember, like, when I was hearing the sirens, or when I was learning about the bodies or people dying, it really affected me. And like that conversation and that expression of that feeling, that's very, very important, which lead us into the third stage, which is the stage of creating new narratives. It's like the way I understand the world, and the belief system that I had no longer works, and it's shattered. And it's like no longer I feel that the world functions the way I understand. And how am I going to rewrite the story of my life, and how I'm going to rewrite a narrative that makes sense, and how am I going to find new belief systems that can function for where I am right now. And that's what people go into explorations, start learning about new things, trying out new ways of being, going places, or making new friends. It's a whole new redoing of your life, which takes us into the fourth stage, which is the stage of integration, in which you integrate what happened in the past, the bad things that happened, the trauma, the difficulty, and the new things that you're going through. It's like your whole self. You recognize everything.
Step outside of the circle of stuck.
Exactly. completely. And then that takes us to the fifth stage, which is the stage of wisdom and growth, which is where you really begin to understand life in a very different way.
Beautiful. Where can we go to get more information on you? I mean, you're very exciting and thought-provoking. So give us that information, and you know what? I got to let you know that you're always welcome to come back here and share more. We need about an hour to really.
Yes.
Stuff to share.
Yes, I would love to delve into it. Yes, especially because I'm super connected with the Bronx. I actually work with the Cambodian refugees from the Bronx. I work at Montefiore Hospital. I worked at Fordham University. Like this is my home, my neighborhood, and it would be lovely to talk more with you. It would be an honor. You can find me on my website, www.dredithshiro.com. My Instagram, Dr. Edith Shiro. I constantly post things on Instagram and Facebook. You can, write to me, YouTube. I mean, it would be wonderful to continue this dialogue. I'm always super excited to hear from other people and what their process is and where they're at and how to do this together.
Thank you. Edith Shiro, clinical psychologist and author, The Unexpected Gift of Trauma. We appreciate you and love you. Thank you so much.
Love you too. Thank you. And make sure you find my book on Amazon and Barnes & Nobles, everywhere. Yes.
Yeah, got to get one. Have you sign it for me?
Please, yes.
Thank you. All right. We'll take a break right here. I've got more open coming up next. Don't move a muscle.